Alright guys, so Cruel, the High Lord's Return, the Guardian Druid Challenge. Definitely recommend that you do this with the legendary Lufa's Wrappings. I did it without it. It took me over 150 attempts. It's very challenging without that legendary. In the description below I'll be putting what flask, what food, what talents I was taking, and legendaries. As you can see, I was using Supatease and I was using the Guardian Druid legs that let you stack Thrash to 5. And then I was playing the last talent where it reduces damage by 2% per Thrash stack. Either way, at the start of the fight, I bash him and I pop my Rage of Sleeper early on with Supatease and my unused pot. I pop my unused pot right before combat started, that way I can use it again in the second phase. When you get to about 3 or 4 stacks, you want to move out of the circle. And then at this point, wait for Drain Life to channel. That way you don't stack your little debuff past 4. Generally speaking, if you get that debuff past 4 or 5, it's going to get risky. Obviously, these Void Spawns, just gather them together. When they finish their channel, you want to use Disorienting Roar to interrupt them. You should be using Frenzy Regeneration when taking lots of damage, obviously. You don't want to use them too much, but I saved that first orb. That way I could stack them up towards the second phase. Generally speaking, these eyes, you want to just Moonfire them once. It should be enough to kill them, but you should note that if you pick up one of the orbs, it will actually dispel the Moonfire off. Here I was very greedy and waited till everything got gathered up before picking up the orb and then AoEing down the rest. They still cast Nether Storm, so you want to pay attention to that. Also, Infernals cast Smash, and it's going to be like a line knockback, an explosive ground knockback, so you want to avoid that, obviously, or you can get knocked off the stage. When the eyes finish channeling on you, they will also knock you back if you aren't facing them, so just generally face your character towards the eyes as much as you can when they're up, and Moonfire them down. When you're on the outside of the circle, you should be spamming Moonfire on the boss when there's nothing else to do, and you want to be getting in the circle as much as you can when your debuff stacks have fallen off, and then obviously drag Void Spawns. I used an orb here to try and recover. I didn't want to use all my Frenzy Regeneration charges. It's important to have one in an emergency. Then obviously you want to keep interrupting Drain Life. You're going to save Skull Bash for only Drain Life. I would not recommend Skull Bashing Mind Rend. And then obviously this Infernal is going to be using a knockback, so I used Rage of Sleeper to immune the knockback. I use that when 2 Infernals come out. That way I can get some extra damage on the boss and push him faster. You want to phase him before 3 Infernals come out. You also want to try to have at least one orb, preferably 2 orbs before he actually dies. It's important to know that the debuff you have lowers your max HP, so if you have debuffs during this transition, like I have 2, you want to stay away from the boss, and I ended up not risking it and just using the AoE to cleave down the rest of the ads. Typically, if you have ads during this transition, it's going to be very difficult and you may wipe. In this phase, it's very important to interrupt Twisted Reflection and move out of pools. You can use Mark of Ursal, there's Twisted Reflection, so you want to Skull Bash that. Annihilate, you generally, on the first one, probably Frenzy Regeneration, but you also can use Iron Fur to reduce the damage overall. In this phase, the Void Spawns tend to go after Velen, so you want to watch and gather them up. Then I used an orb there to recover without using a CD. Now, when he jumps out of pool, you want to kite him and avoid him. Don't stand in the pool, obviously. Keep running in a circle. He'll likely cast Twisted Reflection or Annihilate soon. And for the second Annihilate, you either want to have 2 charges of Iron Fur or use a Shield Wall. In this, I actually bashed him. Even though you bash him, he will cast it instantly again, so you want to be ready for that, and you either want to interrupt it, so I interrupted with an orb. I just stalled it out as long as I could. I dodged the purple lines because they snare you, and if you get snared in this phase, it can be rough. Then I just used the orb to heal myself and reset all of the ads, cleave them down with Rage of Sleeper very quickly. Here I'm getting very close to killing the boss, so I got very anxious. You still want to be interrupting Twisted Reflection, and I tried to dodge these purple things because they snare you. It can be a little bit rough, so Twisted Reflection, interrupt that. If that goes off, you're basically guaranteed to lose. Just keep kiting the boss around, try to move out of pool, or use Mark of Ursal or Frenzy Regeneration to recover. And then at Annihilate stack 2, like when you're moving to 3, you want to use Survival Instincts. Then when you're moving 3 to 4, you want to use Survival Instincts again, because Annihilate will get to a point where it one-shots you. But either way, he ended up dying on his jump towards me. So while you're in the second phase, you do want to use Bash to either interrupt Annihilate, or if you see him jumping, you can bash him mid-jump and he will actually not spawn a pool on the ground. Either way, the most important thing is to make sure you have 1 orb up when you're going into second phase, and that you don't have any ads. If you do, you want to pop cooldowns to kill the ads so as soon as possible. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to dodge the beams, avoid the beams, and pick up the boss. Sometimes the boss will cast Annihilate on Corvos at the transition if you're far away from him. You actually want that to happen, so if you're having a rough time on the transition, try standing very far away from Cruel. Sometimes he will aggro Corvos, which is an NPC, and cast Annihilate once, which is fine. Usually, you would only want to be worried if he casts Annihilate on her maybe 2 or 3 times, but if you get 1 Annihilate on Corvos, then that buys you a lot more time to continue the fight, even if you're running low on cooldowns. It is a very difficult fight. The playstyle without Lufa's wrappings or the chess piece legendary is a lot different. If you have those, you can run Moonkin Affinity and basically kite and max range the characters for the entirety of the events. So it's a completely different strat. So this strat is more so for people that do not have the perfect legendaries. Hope that the guide helped you guys out, and thanks for watching.